no employer can take the position that cussing out customers is okay as long as the customer started it. A food court Cinnabon in a tiny Wisconsin village near Green Bay is not the kind of place you'd expect to attract international media attention from the likes of the Washington Post, The Independent, ABC News. There's a reason the protagonist of Better Call Saul worked in a Cinnabon. It's about as nondescript and unremarkable a job as you can imagine. Plus, you're serving desserts all day, which normally means the clientele is pretty happy, relatively speaking, if also morbidly obese. You're serving dessert dishes that contain enough calories to feed a football team for a week, but which are instead consumed by a single person in a single sitting, which means that your customers go from happy as they anticipate consuming the treat to catatonic and comatose after having gorged themselves like raccoons in a dumpster. Overall, it's a low stakes, low energy, pretty chill environment. That's the point, where everybody comes and gives themselves heart disease in an orderly and peaceful manner. So if you work there, you serve the Cinnabons, you collect your measly paycheck, and you go home. You're not bothering anyone else. No one's bothering you. That's the expected arrangement. But over the weekend, all of our assumptions about Cinnabon were suddenly turned on their head. Turns out that, according to every major news outlet in the country and across the world, Cinnabon is actually ground zero for extreme, unhinged, undiluted white supremacy. Random Cinnabon locations inside generic mall food courts in the middle of nowhere are, in fact, unmistakable evidence that white supremacists are the greatest threat facing our country, just like Joe Biden always told us. And Exhibit A, as you may have seen, is this video. It begins, as all of these videos do, in the middle of the action. You have no context, no idea what happened beforehand. This is all you get. This is the footage that by now has been viewed tens of millions of times. We'll have to bleep a lot of it out, but here's the gist.
I am racist.
So idiot, for
And
real. You are an idiot. No,
I
I'm
am
not.
racist, and I'll say that to the whole entire world. Don't be disrespectful.
You ruined your life, by the way.
Oh,
Bye.
you talk about respect? You talking about respect? You are fired from this place. You're not gonna be working here.
Suck it.
Suck what? Look how you what?
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you, you ugly?
Ugly? Talking about ugliness?
Did I stutter?
Now, it's censored in that footage, but the Cinnabon worker drops an N-bomb. She says the word, the magical word, the word that has mystical powers, like an ancient incantation that you read out of an old book you find in the attic, accidentally summoning a demonic beast from the netherworld. She has a couple of other mean things, too, she says, and clearly understands that she's being recorded and, that she's going to be fired for this. Doesn't care in the slightest, it seems. In fact, she maybe seems thrilled at the idea that she may never have to work in a Cinnabon ever again. And indeed, on the basis of this footage, there was a predictable outrage cycle. Cinnabon's corporate headquarters announced that the woman, whose name is apparently Crystal, has been fired. Tens of thousands of people claim that the footage was proof that white supremacy is alive and well. And in turn, as we saw with Shiloh Hendricks, a Give, Send, Go fundraiser was established to support Crystal. Many people who are tired of these dumb stories and cancellations in general chipped in. And as of now, it's raised nearly $100,000 and counting. So already in about 48 hours, she's earned a lot more than she would have made in several years working at Cinnabon. Then as the outrage cycle continued, additional footage emerged showing 10 seconds from before the viral footage. And this is still out of context, but it gives you a little more context. And here's what that showed.
Sexualizing your body makes you a better person.
Are you recording?
I'm gonna record you. Yes.
Do you want me to throw water on you?
Now, as best I can tell from piecing together various accounts, the allegation here is that a couple of Somalis ordered a Cinnabon, and they weren't happy with the amount of caramel on their cinnamon roll. Because people from third world countries where everybody is starving, they come here and immediately start complaining that their cinnamon rolls don't have enough caramel. Okay, that's what we're dealing with. And in response, according to the Somalis, this is their version of the story to be clear, the Cinnabon employee allegedly made fun of the woman's hijab, saying something to the effect of, you could see me squeezing it through the witchcraft bandana you're wearing on top of your head. And it's not funny. I mean, it sort of is. And then in response, the Somalis allegedly mocked the Cinnabon employee for not wearing a hijab, which is what you just heard in that last clip. And so that's their version. The other version of the story circulating online is that the Somalis harangued the woman unprovoked for not wearing the hijab. What actually happened prior to the viral clip, I have no idea. And neither does anyone else commenting on the story. No clue. And now with all this footage appearing online, you've got your predictable camps forming. On the right, there are some who are lionizing this woman. After all, her salary has almost certainly been taxed and funneled to various Somali scams and Islamic terror groups at one point or another. So a few bad words isn't exactly a big deal in comparison. And meanwhile, on the left, they're trying to turn these Somalis into the next George and Georgette Floyd because, they didn't get enough caramel on their dessert and then had to endure some naughty words. And everybody's drawing these battle lines based on a narrative that makes no sense, no matter how you look at it. I mean, we're supposed to believe that the Cinnabon lady made fun of the woman and dropped an N-bomb because they politely asked for more caramel. We're supposed to believe that all they did was come and say, oh, can I get a little more caramel? And she said, oh, you and your witchcraft bandana. Really? They didn't do anything else to provoke her? Really? They didn't try to bait her and trap her and then start recording mid-confrontation, which happens constantly in scenarios just like this one? Now, to be clear, I don't know. And also, I don't see the Cinnabon lady as any kind of hero or role model. I also think that Cinnabon basically had no choice but to fire her. I mean, if you're caught on camera in uniform on the job, cussing out a customer, it doesn't matter what words you use. If you're cussing out a customer using any vulgarity, you're going to lose your job. No employer can take the position that cussing out customers is okay as long as the customer started it. That is not codified into any employee handbook that I've ever seen. Now, for what it's worth, some reporters, but of course, on the other hand, that does not justify the ridiculous national and global outrage or efforts to ruin this woman's life. This is just you know what this is? This is a very local employment matter at the Cinnabon in Wisconsin. That's what this is. This is not a national story. Now, for what it's worth, some reporters, including reporters at the Daily Wire, have been diving into this woman's voting history. And apparently this woman is a Democrat who voted for Kamala Harris and bragged on social media about getting the COVID shot. And because her behavior in this footage is so over the top, almost like a caricature of how a, quote, racist MAGA Republican would act, that, it raises the possibility that this is an elaborate stunt. Or even yet another Somali scam of some kind, a real long con where she's in on it with the goal of raising a lot of money on Give, Send, Go. I don't know. I'm not necessarily saying that's the case. But the whole thing is weird. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's just strange. And then the fact that this woman voted for Kamala Harris and is talking like this, a little weird. But here's the thing. It's not necessary to resolve any of these questions. Like, it doesn't really matter. The bigger story, which is indeed very important, is the meta question of why this Cinnabon episode is national news in the first place. It's the same reason Shiloh Hendricks was in the news a few months ago. Major news outlets aren't interested in the fact that a minimum wage fast food employee had a verbal spat with customers who were almost certainly provoking her. Nobody cares about that. I mean, that's the kind of thing that happens a million times a day. It's only a story because of the magical power that we have imbued on one specific racial slur. And when I say magical power, I'm not just talking about how if you say the so-called N-word, you'll get fired from your job, demonetized on YouTube, cast out from polite society. We all know about that. I'm also talking about the fact, which is now proven beyond any doubt, that if you say this magical word, then your life is forfeit. You lose your constitutional rights. Your civil liberties are meaningless. Black people have the de facto legal authority to murder you if you say that particular naughty word in front of them. And if you think I'm exaggerating, well, a jury verdict in Portland has just made that clear. So here's the background. This is from a local Fox station in Portland reporting on a stabbing back in July of this year. Watch.
Now know the name of the person arrested for a stabbing in downtown Portland that injured a person. Today, police announced that 42-year-old Gary Omar Edwards was arrested on assault charges. It stems from a stabbing that happened on Northwest 5th Street just after 9:30 yesterday morning. Police say a person was stabbed in the shoulder area and went to the hospital with serious injuries. Edwards was arrested by the Central Bike Squad. There's no word on the stabbing victim's condition.
Now, at the time, it seemed like a pretty open and shut case. A black man named Gary Edwards, who had previous convictions for attempted second-degree assault and who had been sentenced to 3 years in prison for another stabbing on the public transit system, had seriously injured yet another unarmed individual named Gregory Howard, who was sitting on a bench. And in a rare case of Portland police actually doing something, Gary Edwards was quickly arrested and charged with second-degree assault, as he should have been. But just 5 months later, Gary Edwards has been acquitted for stabbing and nearly killing a white guy in broad daylight. He will not face any punishment at all. And that's not because there's any dispute about whether Edwards had stabbed the victim. He admitted it. I mean, it's on camera. He definitely did it. What happened is that the victim, after the attack, was captured on police body camera saying the N-word. And based on that fact alone, the fact that the victim uttered the unmentionable word, Gary Edwards was let off the hook. This is reporting from the Oregonian, quote, an Old Town stabbing case ended in defeat for Multnomah County prosecutors once jurors learned the wounded man had been videoed uttering a racist slur in the struggle's aftermath. Transit cameras show Edwards, a fixed-blade knife clasped at his side, approaching Howard from behind as he sat on a bench. The video has no sound, but Howard springs up and pushes Edwards as soon as he sees him. The duo scuffle against a wall for a brief moment, ending with Edwards stabbing Howard in the shoulder. Defense attorney Daniel Small said the most relevant evidence was recorded later when security officers heard the wounded man shouting the racist slur and captured it on their body cameras as he described the incident. Edwards is black, Howard is white. Both are alike in other respects. Each is 43 years old. The defense attorney said Edwards was simply approaching Howard and offering a polite trade, his knife for some cigarettes. What other than racism could explain why Mr. Howard perceived hatred, animosity, and aggression from a complete stranger? The defense attorney asked the jury on October 30th. What could make him perceive it as aggression? Oh, I don't know. Well, maybe it was the fact that Gary Edwards approached the victim from behind with a knife out. Maybe when you're sitting on a bench and someone sneaks up from behind you holding a knife, you might perceive that they're a threat to you. Maybe that's why the victim perceived aggression and immediately pushed Edwards away. Maybe he didn't want to get randomly stabbed just like the other person that Edwards stabbed on the public transit system. Maybe he didn't buy the idea that the guy wanted to trade his knife, which is complete nonsense. Oh, he wanted to make a trade, really? But when you're a defense attorney for a psychotic, violent vagrant, this is the kind of defense you have to launch. You have to sincerely claim that your guy, with a history of stabbing people, crept up behind somebody with a knife out because he wanted to engage in some old-fashioned bartering, like they're at a trading outpost on the frontier in 1843. Now, given the facts of this case, there is no doubt whatsoever that Gary Edwards was acquitted because his victim was white and because his white victim used a racial slur after the fact. If the victim had been black and used this particular word either before or after the fact, nobody would have batted an eye. But because the victim was white, he had it coming. I mean, what the Portland jury said is that, well, he deserved to get stabbed because he said a word. That's what they said. That was actually their verdict. In the eyes of a Portland jury, if you're white, the use of an anti-black slur means that you deserve to get stabbed. You deserve to die. Even if you use the slur after you're attacked. That to use a racial slur after you get stabbed retroactively justifies getting stabbed. That is a jury verdict that happened in this country. Of course, in a free country, You should be able to use racial slurs anytime you want without fear that you'll be murdered if you do so. If you use racial slurs or any vulgarity on the job in uniform, you might lose your job. Okay, that's not a law. That's just your employers are also free to make determinations. But there shouldn't be any word that you're just simply not allowed to say. There's no combination of syllables that you should be banned from uttering. There are no syllables that should justify violence against you. Now, I've seen a lot of commentators emphasizing the fact that Howard only used the slur after the attack, which is obviously very important to mention because it highlights how depraved this whole thing is. But we should also make it clear that if Howard had been calling this guy a slur before the attack, that should not matter either. Okay, even if he pushed him and called him a bad word before he was stabbed, that also does not even come close. It doesn't move us an inch towards justifying the stabbing. Bad words do not justify violence, period. If somebody's approaching you from behind with a knife in his hand or with nothing in his hands at all, you can call him whatever mean name you can think of. That obviously doesn't give him a license to try to kill you. Racial slurs are bad. Vulgarity is bad. I don't think people should be using vulgarity in public. I'll say N-word instead of the actual word for the same reason I'll say F-word or C-word. You know, if I'm reading a quote from someone, I'll say F-word. See, it's a little silly. It's a little arbitrary. I mean, even by referencing the first letter in the word, you're still conveying the word, right? So you're still sort of communicating it. So you could argue that you might as well just say it. But I also believe in following certain rules of decorum, not legal rules. These are not legal rules or should not be. They're just standards of behavior. But those standards should apply to all vulgarity, not just one particular vulgarity. And obviously, you can disapprove of vulgarity without saying that somebody should die or go to prison because they use them. And indeed, if you can't do that, then you're not living in America anymore. You're living in a country more like Somalia. Shiloh Hendricks knows that very well. Her trial date has been set and already said after she used the forbidden word in a playground in Minnesota. And in case you don't remember that story, a Somali child stole her property. So there's constantly Somalis getting mixed up in this kind of thing. That's interesting. It's almost like the Somalis are coming here, causing a lot of trouble, antagonizing the actual native citizens of this country, and it's also almost like everyone's just fed up with them. We're sensing a lot of that. People are just fed up with it. People are looking at these third world scam artists that come to this country and they're just pissed off. They're fed up with it. They're tired of it. And that's what's coming across. This episode is sponsored by Helix. The holidays are here, which means your calendar is probably packed. When life gets this hectic, sleep often takes a backseat, but that's exactly when you need it most. Quality rest is what keeps you energized for the holidays so you can enjoy it, not just survive it. And if your mattress isn't giving you the deep, comfortable sleep your body craves, you're starting every busy day at a disadvantage. That's where Helix comes in. Helix's sleep quiz makes finding the right mattress simple. It'll ask you about your preferences and sleep style and then match you with the mattress that's actually right for you. And they're not just making promises. Helix is the most awarded mattress brand out there with glowing reviews from Forbes, Wired, and other trusted experts. And good news, they deliver straight to your door with free shipping, so no hauling anything yourself. Plus, with their Happy with Helix guarantee, you get 100 nights to try it out and a limited lifetime warranty. So if it's not working for you, returns and exchanges are easy. It's a risk-free way to finally get the sleep that you deserve. My family has completely switched to Helix mattresses now. My wife and I have a mattress. We've had one for a while now, and we absolutely love it. It's the best mattress I've ever owned, hands down. We decided to go ahead and update all of our kids' mattresses to Helix too, and they love them as well. So go to helixsleep.com/Walsh for 20% off site-wide. That's helixsleep.com/Walsh for 20% off site-wide. Make sure you enter our show name into the post-purchase survey so they know we sent you. helixsleep.com/Walsh. But anyway, a Somali man with a disturbing criminal record began harassing her, and she finally snapped. She was clearly tired that Somalis had taken over her community. She was tired that they were trying to provoke her. And faced with this provocation, she made her disapproval very, very clear. In this case, she wasn't on the job or wearing a uniform. She was just at the playground. with her kid in her personal life. But in Little Mogadishu, white people are not allowed to demonstrate their disapproval for Somalis anymore, whether they're using offensive language or not. And that's why local authorities are currently trying to put Shiloh Hendricks in prison. In August of next year, she'll go on trial for several counts of disorderly conduct, even though she didn't cause any kind of public disturbance at all. I mean, if you saw the video, you know that. She barely even raised her voice. This was a quick interaction. If you had been on the playground, on the other side of the playground, you would probably not even notice it. She was directing her frustration at the man who was filming her and berating her after her property was stolen. But because she used a bad word and failed to show proper deference to the invaders who have destroyed Minnesota, she's probably going to go to prison. This is the state of the First Amendment in a country that's imported an awful lot of people who don't have a First Amendment in their countries. That's the state of free speech in a country where immigration authorities are constantly being hounded, harassed, even shot at, from California to Minnesota to Chicago to New Orleans to New York, simply for doing their job and enforcing the border and deporting illegal aliens who have no right to live in this country. Put simply, without immigration enforcement, we don't have a First Amendment. And at the same time, this isn't simply a question of illegal migration. The problem goes a lot deeper than that. A black guy in Texas was awarded over $500,000 in donations, as you remember, for stabbing a white kid named Austin Metcalf to death. And as they donated the money, thousands of black people left comments celebrating, in effect, the death of another evil white kid who didn't do anything wrong. He was just stabbed to death. And that happened just a few months ago. So in America, here's the reality. Black people are given hundreds of thousands of dollars and a literal get-out-of-jail-free card if they hear a word that hurts their feelings. Or even if they don't. Austin Metcalf didn't use the magic word. Now, before any major news outlet says another word about a random lady working in a Cinnabon, it'd be interesting to see them answer this question. Why was Carmelo Anthony allowed to receive his diploma? He killed an unarmed white kid and then lied to police about stashing his knife in the bleachers. And it seems like the kind of thing that should disqualify you from graduating. I don't know. And while we're at it, what evidence was there that Derek Chauvin actually killed George Floyd? Even the jury told CNN they didn't actually think Chauvin killed Floyd. They convicted Chauvin because, in their view, he didn't demonstrate enough compassion to a man who was clearly overdosing of his own accord. And while we're at it, why were the prosecutors allowed to lie to the jury about the relative amount of fentanyl in Floyd's system by comparing his blood samples to samples from overdose victims that were taken long after their deaths? Until we get serious answers to these questions, don't talk to us about the Cinnabon woman who had a bad day. Okay, she's not a hero or martyr, but she is the predictable result of decades of anti-white propaganda that has destroyed far too many lives. And like the Cinnabon woman, we are all tired of it. Hey, YouTube, thanks for listening to the show. If you'd like access to my full show with no ads, you should go to dailywire.com and use promo code Walsh to get 2 months free on all annual plans. See you there.